Okay, so let's just jump right in. We live in this world that promises unprecedented ease, right? Everything is instant.
Total instant gratification. It's a life that is, almost by its very design, completely frictionless.
Exactly. You can order dinner, hail a ride, check in on your kids, chat with someone literally halfway around the globe, all with a few taps on a little piece of glass.
It's the definition of a hyper-connected and, yeah, effortless existence. That's the world we've all been sold, this high-definition, high-efficiency life.
But what's so fascinating and what we're really digging into today is this powerful counter movement.
A really vigorous one. People are, actively seeking out friction. They're looking for difficulty, for manual labor.
They're making a trade. They're intentionally trading that convenience, that passive consumption, for something else, something more tangible.
For competence. For the deep satisfaction of knowing how to do something, how to maintain something. It's this fundamental belief that if something is worth using, then it's worth maintaining.
And that's the core of it, isn't it? The idea of a fixable world.
That's the perfect term for it, and it's a direct rejection of what we've become, this sort of throwaway society.
Right, so that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to explore this cultural trade-off. We're going to unpack how this whole DIY ethos has evolved. I mean, it started as a post-war hobby.
Then it became this explicit anti-consumerist movement in the 60s and 70s.
And now, for a lot of people, it's not even a choice. It's a survival strategy. It's defined by constant repair and really absolute self-sufficiency.
To get there, we've looked at a whole range of sources. We've synthesized expert opinions on the psychological side of digital life, which is, frankly, kind of scary. We've got historical analyses of the DIY movement from the 40s all the way to the 70s.
We've also got some really sharp critiques of mass consumption and the engine behind it all planned obsolescence.
And maybe the most revealing part, we're looking at the unvarnished, an uninstagrammable reality of the modern van life movement. Because in that world, maintenance isn't a hobby.
No, it's the price of admission. It's the cost of freedom. The whole conversation today, really, it all comes back to a defense of durability, the right to repair, and how that's essential for building a meaningful life.
So where do we start?
Let's start at the beginning. I think to really get why people are craving friction and complexity, we have to first appreciate what they're reacting against.
Right. You have to understand the allure of the system first.
Exactly. It's so easy to just criticize screen time, but modern technology has delivered some staggering positives. We have to set that baseline. This is the world we actually live in.
Oh, profoundly positive is the only way to describe some of it. I mean, just think about communication. The fact that digital connectivity is ubiquitous has created what one expert we looked at, Garland McCoy, called real-time engagement.
Real-time engagement. What does that mean in practice?
Well, he gave the example of being a parent, a partner, a problem solver, all while traveling anywhere in the world. He can manage all those relationships and responsibilities, often for free, without the painful lag and disconnection that defined travel just a generation ago.
That's a huge deal. It completely eliminates that old death of a salesman tragedy where being on the road meant you were just cut off, agonizingly disconnected.
And beyond that, just the sheer logistical power we all carry around in our pockets now, it's staggering. Kyle Rose from Akamai Technologies, he highlighted a few massive benefits. First, just maintaining deep, interactive relationships with friends who are far away.
Through social media, you mean?
Yeah, but not just passively. He's saying it allows those connections to stay warm, so when you finally do meet up in person, you can just pick right back up. The world feels smaller, warmer.
And then there's the day-to-day stuff, the sheer convenience.
Oh, absolutely. Rose mentioned having access to virtually all recorded music, ever. Real-time, up-to-the-minute maps with dynamic traffic data that helps you avoid jams.
The ability to order food, groceries, a taxi, all from one device with a few taps. For you listening, this might just sound like a normal Tuesday.
Right, but we have to acknowledge how revolutionary this level of access really is. It wasn't that long ago that none of this was possible.
There was one quote we found that just perfectly nails the scope of this. It was an anonymous father, and he said, "My son has grown up in a world in which he will never be lost. He will never be without a person to talk to. He will never be stopped from searching for an answer to a query."
Wow! Think about that. The collective knowledge of humankind is literally at your fingertips. It just eliminates so many of those basic frustrations that used to eat up hours of your time.
Trying to find a book in the library?
Yeah.
Or getting lost with a paper map?
And crucially, this access isn't just about convenience. Sometimes it's life-saving. We saw this powerful example from Leah Robin, a health scientist. Her family deals with a rare genetic form of anemia.
And technology helped them how?
It let them instantly contact researchers who were leading studies on that specific condition. And maybe even more importantly, it connected them with patient communities all over the globe so they could give and receive support.
That is a total game changer for rare diseases where you might feel completely isolated.
It is. And in a similar way, we saw a source from a digital strategist at a top university who confirmed this. The internet has just exponentially enabled the spread of healthcare information to the public.
So you're no longer solely reliant on your local library or, the one doctor in your small town.
Exactly. You can find information on health concerns, the latest treatments, community support. It's all right there. It has a massive impact on knowledge parity and ultimately on quality of life.
So we've got this incredible baseline. It's efficient, it's connected, it's empowering. It feels like a massive net positive.
It does, but here's where it gets really interesting. This is where the sources start to shine a light on the inescapable shadow of this frictionless life.
The psychological cost of all that instant gratification.
That's it. Addiction experts are starting to view the digital world not just as a set of tools, but as an environment that actively, by its very design, promotes dependency. It's blurring the line between a useful tool and an addictive behavior.
And this is where we really start to see why people are running toward friction. We analyzed the work of Dr. Anna Lemke, who's a world-leading addiction expert, and she refers to the smartphone as, well, the modern-day hypodermic needle.
That is a chilling analogy.
It is, but think about it. We turn to it habitually, almost compulsively. We're looking for these quick little hits of attention, of validation, of distraction with every single swipe, every like, every tweet.
It's a constant drip feed, an indefatigable source of immediate, low-effort pleasure.
And that constant stimulation comes with, an exceptionally high neurological cost. It's all driven by a core principle of how our brains work, homeostasis.
Right, homeostasis. The self-regulating process, the body is always trying to maintain an internal balance, like a thermostat.
Exactly like a thermostat. So when you indulge in a massive, pleasurable high like binge watching a show or scrolling through an endless social media feed, your brain has to compensate.
It chemically compensates by pushing your internal emotional balance in the opposite direction. It pushes you down into a state of deficit.
People sometimes call it dopamine debt. It's a great term for it. For every high, there is a subsequent and equal low.
And with traditional substances, there are natural limits, right? You eventually run out of the drug or money or time, and that forces a pause. It gives your brain a chance to try and re-stabilize.
But the digital world, it's designed to be bottomless. It's indefatigable. With a TikTok feed or a Netflix queue, the next hit just automatically loads. There's no friction.
Exactly. There are almost no practical limitations forcing us to stop. And that's why we've seen this huge spike in behavioral addiction since the turn of the millennium. The brain never gets a chance to recover.
So it resets its baseline for pleasure lower and lower.
Perpetually sinking lower, so you end up needing greater and greater stimuli just to feel normal, just to get back to zero.
And the consequences of this, as the sources detail, are, well, they're severe. This constant chase for stimulation means we are always interrupting the internal processing that's necessary for deep thought.
Right. When we look at the brain structure, this behavior keeps us chronically stuck in our limbic brain.
Can you break that down for us? The limbic brain versus what's the other part?
The prefrontal cortex. So think of the limbic system as the brain's emotional reactive system. It handles quick emotions, fight or flight, immediate pleasure and pain. It's the impulsive, instinctual part.
Okay, the toddler brain.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to think of it. In contrast, the prefrontal cortex is like the CEO of the brain. It's in charge of future planning, impulse control, complex problem solving, delaying gratification.
And when we reach for that frictionless digital escape, the second we feel any discomfort,
we are actively training ourselves to favor the limbic brain. We are literally interrupting the hard work the prefrontal cortex is supposed to be doing.
Dr. Lemke points out that we are losing the capacity to delay gratification. We're losing the ability to tolerate frustration or to solve complex, taxing problems.
Because why would you? The moment you're confronted with an unsettling issue, your digital companion is right there, offering an easy, smooth, frictionless escape. It prevents us from developing crucial mental fortitude.
And the irony here is just so powerful. We have access to all this endless digital fun, but the data shows we are, as a whole, less happy.
Much less happy. Global depression rates are climbing significantly, and studies show that people in high-income countries, the primary users of all these frictionless services, have become increasingly unhappy.
So the frictionless life leads directly to cognitive fatigue, to a loss of what the sources call resting mental networks.
Which is just a fancy way of saying the ability for your mind to wander, to have original ideas, to reflect deeply, all the things that contribute to a general sense of internal wellness.
So the pushback we're seeing, this turn toward analog, toward repair, toward actual difficulty,
It's a desperate search for that lost cognitive capacity. It's a detox.
that is a staggering argument.
Right.
The moment-to-moment psychological cost is driving this demand for physical friction. But that impulse, that need for durability, it gets doubled when you look at the material world.
Because the material world is structured to mirror that digital addiction. Quick hits, instant disposability.
A structural problem that we have to confront next,
Yeah.
the throwaway society.
The throwaway society. It's the critical economic and cultural structure we're all swimming in. It equates perpetual bashing with personal fulfillment. And it is the absolute antithesis of this fixable world ethos we're talking about.
It's a system built on prioritizing things that are short-lived, disposable, non-durable.
Over goods that are designed for reuse, for repair, for a genuine lifetime of use.
And the history of the term itself is just stunning.
Yeah.
Because it didn't start as a criticism at all, did it?
No, not in the slightest. In 1955, right in the middle of that post-World War II economic boom, Life magazine published this famous article. The title was Throwaway Living.
And they meant it as a good thing.
A deeply positive thing. It was this vision of the future where life was easier and more economical for the household caretaker, the housewife, because everything was disposable. Aluminum foil, paper plates, napkins.
A celebration of convenience. And it fueled that massive boom in mass consumption that defined the post-war era. Disposability was a marker of modernity, of progress.
So the shift in meaning is just profound. The problem wasn't the convenience itself. The problem was the mechanism that was developed to sustain this consumption model long term.
And that mechanism is planned obsolescence.
The philosophy of deliberately designing products to fail, or just to become less desirable over what they called an uneconomically short time frame, all to ensure you have to keep repurchasing.
We looked at Vance Packer's work, the seminal 1960 book, The Waste Makers. He really captured the feeling of resistance to this. He called it the systematic attempt of business to make us wasteful, debt-ridden, permanently discontented individuals.
That's a powerful quote. And when we talk about the desire for a fixable world, we're talking about fighting that core economic principle directly.
We are demanding the right to durable goods, the right to repair what we own.
Let's just break down the economics of it for a second. From the producer's point of view, profit is maximized when they can minimize the cost of their materials and design.
While maximizing how often you, the customer, have to buy it again.
Exactly. They spend the least amount possible to create a non-durable good that they can then sell to you repeatedly over your lifetime. It's a subscription model for physical objects.
And this lack of durability is often ensured by actively withholding technology that would make things last longer.
The classic example is the Phoebus cartel in the 1920s. They allegedly got together and all agreed to cap the lifespan of their light bulbs at around 1,000 hours.
Even though they had the tech to make them last much, much longer.
Right. And that ensures this systemic suppression of durability across entire product categories. It locks the consumer into a cycle of replacement. It removes our choice.
And this obsolescence, it isn't just mechanical, is it? It's not just an engine part failing or a circuit board frying.
No, often it's psychological. And we see this most glaringly in industries like fast fashion. It's all about style obsolescence.
So the clothes don't actually break down.
Not mechanically, no, they break down socially. Since the early 2000s, global clothing sales have doubled. Doubled. From 100 billion to 200 billion units per year.
That is an insane number.
It is, and it results in an estimated 92 million tons of clothing-related waste being thrown out every year. And this volume is maintained by fashion influencers and brands constantly pushing new looks, new trends.
Ensuring that people throw away clothing that is perfectly wearable just because it's no longer on trend.
And the sources show just how terrifyingly fast this culture is accelerating. The average piece of clothing today is worn only 7 to 10 times before it's discarded.
7 to 10 times.
And that lifespan has decreased by a shocking 36% in just the last 15 years. It is a machine designed to satisfy that want for instant gratification, a new look, a new widget, while actively disregarding all the consequences.
And the environmental and socioeconomic impact of all this design disposability is
Yeah.
colossal.
Truly colossal. Just look at waste generation. Containers and packaging alone make up 32% of all municipal solid waste. And one study we saw from the University of Arizona indicated that 40 to 50% of all edible food in the U.S. never even gets eaten.
Billions and billions of dollars of waste just built into our entire food and retail supply chain.
But this waste doesn't just pile up in our own backyards, it's a global problem. Academics use this term, socio-ecological telecoupling.
Okay, that's a mouthful. Telecoupling. What's that?
It basically means the non-local connections between distant human and natural systems. So what you do here has a direct impact somewhere else, far away.
Give me an example.
Your consumption in the global north, say, you buying a new smartphone, is directly telecoupled to resource extraction, pollution, and poor labor conditions in the global south where the parts are made.
And that connection doesn't end when I throw the product away, does it?
No, that's when the second half of the cycle kicks in. Our waste, especially our e-waste, is often shipped from richer to poorer nations. Up to 1.9 million tons of toxic e-waste a year goes to countries like China or Nigeria.
Why? Because it's cheaper.
It's cheaper and easier for companies to ship the garbage away than to dispose of it safely themselves, following their own country's regulations.
And this toxic material ends up where?
Often dumped in unlined, unregulated landfills. It exposes local populations to hazardous waste without any safety protocols. So this whole fixable world ethos, it has to tackle this global inequity.
So demanding the right to repair, demanding durability. It isn't just about me saving money on a new toaster.
Not at all. It's about disrupting a global economic structure that's built on disposability and externalized costs. The costs are paid by someone else, somewhere else.
And that leads us perfectly to the cultural antidote. If the material world is designed to be easy to get and easy to discard,
Then the DIY ethos, the belief that you can and should master the skills to maintain your own existence, becomes a radical act of resistance.
let's transition into the history of that resistance.
Okay. So the DIY ethos as we know it today, it really emerged strongly in North America right after the Great Depression and World War II.
And it wasn't just about saving a buck, though that was part of it. The sources show it was explicitly linked to psychological health, to well-being.
It was crucial for redefining identity in that post-war, rapidly industrializing world. And this idea was promoted heavily in mainstream manuals aimed at the average homeowner. We see it laid bare in a 1941 book by Julian Starr called 50 Things to Make for the Home.
And Starr's argument wasn't about economics.
Not at all. He argued that the home workshop offered, and this is a quote, a source of rejuvenation for a spirit bewildered or worn by the vicissitudes of ordinary existence.
So think about the cultural moment. You have men returning from the war, or maybe they're transitioning from physical jobs into these new desk-bound, white-collar intellectual jobs.
And DIY provided this productive psychological release. It allowed a man who was constrained by abstract intellectual work all day to then transition to physical creation.
To see a tangible, permanent result of his effort.
Right. Starr argued that the emotional investment and the sense of self-satisfaction that came from creating or fixing something beautiful was ultimately more important than saving a few dollars.
So the act of fixing and making was central to building an identity in the 1950s.
Absolutely. An early analyst of the DIY boom, Albert Rowland, he explained that the self-identity of the husband handyman was produced through his direct interactions with the material world.
The business of dealing with things, I think he called it.
That's the phrase. And mastering those skills was the main source of his satisfaction. It defined him in opposition to the passive consumer.
This focus on mastery over just acquisition seems to be the core concept here.
It is. Rowland was actually suspicious of hobbyists who were only motivated by simple consumerism. You know, the guys who just bought pre-made kits to assemble quickly.
Why? What was wrong with that?
He felt it interfered with the more important ambition of individual self-actualization, of transformation. So even within the very conservative framework of post-war America, DIY was a tool for achieving a deep, earned sense of self-worth that just buying something could never replicate.
So in the 40s and 50s, DIY is about mastering your home environment to stabilize your own psychological health and reinforce the nuclear family.
That's a good summary. And then that mainstream idea gets radically appropriated by the counterculture in the late 60s and 70s.
And they turned DIY into this explicit, often very political, anti-consumerist stance.
That shift was all about creating self-sustaining lifestyles, often on rural communes, for what they call the extended family. The goal was an active philosophical withdrawal from normative capitalist waste.
And the Bible for this movement was the legendary Whole Earth Catalog.
Absolutely revolutionary.
Yeah.
The WEC was an educational platform. It was a manual. It was a philosophical text. It disseminated practical know-how on construction, architecture, gardening, living off the grid.
It was designed to promote access to tools, information, and wisdom as a means of radical societal critique. It provided the intellectual and the practical scaffolding for resistance.
And its famous tagline said it all: access to tools. It wasn't just telling people what to do, it was teaching them how to do it and empowering them with the resources to do so.
They saw the ability to build your own shelter, generate your own power, grow your own food.
As the only path to true independence from the system of mass consumption.
But what's so interesting is the historical continuity. The line between that post-war handyman and the countercultural commune member is surprisingly strong.
It is. The Countercultural Manual, for all its radical language, was arguably a direct extension of those earlier DIY ideologies. It just applied them to a different social unit.
That's a critical nuance. I mean, the founder of the WEC, Stuart Brand, he claimed it owed nothing to the suppliers and everything to the users.
And yet it was still a catalog. It still used the catalog format. It was advertising, advertising products and books and services that were deemed appropriate for their alternative lifestyle.
Which suggests their resistance, while radical in its intent, was still tied to new understandings of consumption.
Right. You still had to acquire the right knowledge and the right tools, the ultimate consumer goods in a way. But the goal was constant across both eras.
Aligning self-directed action with a comprehensive ideology.
Exactly. And in both cases, the real value wasn't just in the finished object. It was in the mediation between the production of the self that mastered competent identity and the society you belong to.
And that profound sense of competence is exactly what the modern frictionless world is trying to erase.
Which is why we're seeing this ethos pop up again, not just as a hobby or a philosophical statement, but as a hardcore economic necessity.
Most clearly visible in the modern mobile living movement. Which brings us to the harsh realities of the fixable world today.
Right. Van life. It's such a potent cultural image.
Oh, yeah. On social media, it's sold as the ultimate frictionless freedom, right? Golden hour sunsets, open roads, perfect minimalist interiors.
But the sources we looked at suggest that for many, it's not really a lifestyle choice. It's a necessary consequence of systemic failure. It's driven by a desperate desire for financial independence because of soaring housing costs.
It's the contemporary manifestation of that DIY ethos. For a lot of people, van life has gone from being a symbol of adventure to a genuine housing lifeline.
A lifeline when traditional leases and mortgages just become these financially unattainable traps. It's a pursuit of minimalism and affordability, but boy, does it come with a punishing set of requirements.
The trade-off is so clear. You're trading traditional stability, the square footage of a fixed home, for mobility, for the square miles of the open road.
And you trade predictable landlord issues for completely unpredictable, often catastrophic mechanical issues.
And the financial math can be really deceptive.
Oh, totally. Mobility requires constant payment for freedom and choice. The moment repairs catch you off guard, those costs can just soar. They can instantly wipe out any savings you were trying to protect by choosing this lifestyle.
The sources consistently point out this paradox. Van life is cheapest when the van stays put and nothing breaks.
Which is not the point of van life. And once you start moving, it quickly turns into what one source called a perpetual low-grade maintenance economy.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It's continuous, often depressing, and definitely un-Instagrammable labor. You become your own landlord, your own maintenance crew, your own mechanic. You are your only line of defense against a total breakdown.
And the fear of those breakdowns must be constant. Especially if you're using an older bus or van that was never meant to be driven thousands of miles a month.
The sources are clear. Accidents are not an if, they are a when.
So give us some concrete examples. What does this look like on the ground? It's not just getting an oil change, I'm guessing.
Oh no, we are talking about anything from a simple broken side mirror, which might ground you for days just waiting for a part to arrive.
To major mechanical issues, like we saw an example of someone bashing their oil pan on a big boulder on some back road.
Exactly. And a repair like that can easily cost thousands of dollars. And it can require months of planning just to find a shop that's even capable or willing to work on a custom vehicle.
And while you're grounded waiting for that repair, you're paying for hotels, for Airbnbs,
which rapidly destroys the very budget advantage that pushed you into this life in the first place.
And even the small domestic breakdowns really highlight how the throwaway society catches up with you, even when you're trying to live off-grid.
It undermines your self-sufficiency despite your best efforts. We saw this one really painful anecdote about ice buildup in a mini fridge freezer. It's a common problem in a humid, mobile environment.
So what happened?
The person tried the common sense fix. They tried to chip the ice out with a pocket knife.
I can see where this is going.
Yep. Hand slipped, punctured the plastic liner. And what they learned the hard way was that the coolant line for the entire fridge-freezer combo ran directly underneath that thin plastic liner.
So a tiny puncture.
Made the entire unit utterly irreparable. It was designed to be disposable, not fixable. There was no way to patch it. The whole system was a single sealed unit.
So they were defeated by a product that was designed to fail in a way that defied repair. The right to repair was just gone.
Completely denied. And the result, they had to go out and buy a brand new non-sale unit, a massive unexpected expense.
And then there's the ambitious DIY labor that goes into the van conversions themselves that forces this immense necessary friction.
Building out the electrical backbone of the van, for example. Your wiring systems with links units, fuse boards, multi-class inverters.
Right.
It requires these lengthy, detailed figuring it out stages.
Let's quickly clarify those terms because they really show the complexity. A multi-plus inverter is the brain of the system, right?
It's the critical brain. It handles charging your batteries from shore power, from solar, from the alternator, and it converts that low-voltage DC current into the 120 VAC current you need to run your appliances.
And the links units manage the power distribution.
Right. These are high-voltage components, and they have to be installed perfectly. Mistakes aren't just costly. They can be dangerous. It requires extreme attention to detail.
And one team described an error they made that just perfectly encapsulates the high cost of a simple lapse in focus in this world. They called it the will problem.
Tell us about the will problem.
The mistake was so simple. They forgot to connect the solar panels to the wiring before they securely fixed them down to the roof.
Oh.
Yeah. They used rivets, heavy-duty sealant, and they built the interior ceiling boards around them. The panels were locked in place.
So to fix that one simple missed connection.
They had to use physical brute force to pry the panels up just enough to reach the connection points. That one lapse in focus meant hours of difficult, back-breaking physical work just to undo what they had just done.
That is not the glamour shot of freedom you see on Instagram. That is enforced, difficult, physical problem solving, and it demands your full presence.
And this brings us right back full circle, back to the psychological element we talked about at the start, the need for friction as a detox. Yeah.
This high-stakes labor, whether it's mechanical or domestic repair, it acts as an enforced digital detox. You can't be scrolling TikTok while you're wiring a multi-plus inverter.
The urgency and the physical demand for your singular, focused attention is the direct opposite of the passive, frictionless, dopamine-driven cycle of social media.
Van life, for all its glamorous marketing, forces the person living it into a state of chronic, necessary mindfulness.
It restores embodiment. Repair reintroduces necessary friction, mess, and complexity. It helps restore that physical engagement that's so key for mental stability.
When you are covered in grease, struggling to tighten a bolt in an awkward spot, you are firmly, undeniably anchored in the physical reality of the moment.
A feeling that endless scrolling actively denies you.
But we have to be completely honest about the mess, because the sources are. The uninstagrammable reality involves constant battles with organization in a tiny space, things flying around when you drive.
And the scheduled, deeply unpleasant labor of waste management. The ultimate non-glamorous friction.
The ultimate unromantic detail is the whole pee bottle or gray water situation. The sheer necessity of waste management in a tiny home leads to inevitable, disgusting incidents.
Like forgetting to empty a cassette toilet or a pee bottle, especially if you've driven up an elevation where the pressure changes.
Oh, God. One person described a 100% full capacity pee bottle that was left in the van during a summer heat wave, and it exploded. The resulting scene was just horrific. An unholy mix of odor and a fine putrefied mist of aerosolized rancid urine coating the entire interior. And that is an incident that demands immediate, physical, high-friction cleanup. There is no app for that.
And some people, in their panic, tried to clean the mess with household chemicals.
Which introduces a whole new layer of chemical friction. Specifically, they try to use bleach, forgetting that urine contains ammonia. Stale urine contains a lot of ammonia.
And ammonia plus bleach is a very bad
It's a
combination.
very bad combination. It creates chloramine gas, which causes violent coughing, burning eyes, respiratory distress. You are literally gassing yourself out of your own home.
The reality is that the escape from the structured system is replaced by the inescapable, often dangerous domestic labor of maintaining the fragile infrastructure of your own survival.
It demands constant, non-glamorous, high-friction maintenance. The fixable world is often dirty, difficult, and demanding, but it's never boring.
And that difficulty, that friction,
Yeah.
that's the point. The difficulty is what provides the competence and the mental clarity that the frictionless, disposable world is actively stealing from us.
So we've come on this journey today. We've moved from the instant, frictionless convenience of 5G and endless dopamine hits.
To the challenging, messy, but ultimately empowering reality of the fixed and the fixable world. The modern drive toward DIY and repair is a conscious and I think necessary trade-off.
It's fundamentally a quest for intentionality, for durability, all in a world that is structured around disposability and planned failure.
And it doesn't matter if your motivation is psychological rejuvenation, escaping the office, or just plain economic survival. The act of engaging directly with the material world provides a competence and earned self-worth that passive consumption can never, ever replicate.
And that core value of any DIY action, whether it's fixing a leaky faucet or rewiring a complex solar system, it resides in its role as a mediation between the production of yourself, your identity, the self-worth you get from mastery.
And the society you belong to. It gives you a necessary sense of control and competency, even when you're operating on the margins of the traditional consumer system.
The van lifer, who's forced into the state of perpetual maintenance, and the post-war handyman, who was just seeking a creative release, they both find this profound satisfaction in mastering skills and dealing directly with things.
They both realize that true, long-term freedom and financial independence are built on the challenging, messy, and complex work of just keeping things running. And that's a lesson the frictionless world tries really hard to make us all forget.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought, and it's centered squarely on this desire for durability and what really should be the universal right to repair.
We've detailed how planned obsolescence makes our goods systematically undurable and difficult to fix, a design choice that's engineered to force us into repurchasing things over and over.
And conversely, we've seen how embracing complex, high-friction maintenance can lead to tangible mental benefits, increased self-worth, and even financial freedom. So if the ability to fix, to maintain, to prolong the life of the things we own is so crucial for our psychological and economic independence.
And if the existing economy systematically denies us this, right, by its very design,
Then should society mandate that all new products be designed not for a deliberately short life, but for universal durability and comprehensive component-level repair?
that's the real challenge that the fixable world poses to our modern economy. It's a fundamental challenge of intentional design versus intentional failure.